I'm a very attention-needy person. I constantly ask my boyfriend for kisses and act all clingy and sweet. One day, I accidentally came across a post. What do you do when your girlfriend is too dependent? Every comment underneath said the same thing. Break up with her. Clingy women are obsessive. Leave her before it gets worse. I went quiet, closed the app, and tried to move on with my day. I watched Ethan walk out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist. For the first time ever, I avoided his hug. He frowned in confusion when I sat on his lap, but this time felt different. I'm on my period. My stomach hurts, I told him, trying to create some distance. He sighed, kissed my forehead, and tucked me into bed. Then he went to the kitchen and came back with water, brown sugar, and a heating pad. Go to sleep early. I still have work to do, he said. I turned my back to him and pretended not to care. I listened to his footsteps fade away while clutching my pillow. I had to stop being such a burden before he left me. We grew up together, and I had always been like this. Back in kindergarten, I wouldn't eat unless he sat beside me. In elementary school, I threw a fit when they moved our desks apart. In high school, once Ethan became popular and girls started chasing after him, my insecurity exploded. I scared every girl away and kept track of him constantly. If I didn't see him for an hour, I'd get anxious. When we started dating after graduation, he accepted all of it, but always with a cold, almost mechanical attitude. I'd force him to work from home or drag me to his office just so I could ask for kisses in front of everyone. He always did it, but quickly, with an expression I interpreted as exhaustion. He's probably sick of me already. The next morning, he made breakfast with all my favorite foods. I have a meeting at the company. If you get tired of waiting, text me, he said. I took a bite of toast and told him he didn't have to message me anymore. Ethan stared at me. It's an important meeting. Come with me today, and tomorrow I'll stay home with you, okay? He insisted. You don't have to work from home anymore, I said quietly. Before, I used to cling to him while he worked, nibbling at him and distracting him nonstop. I thought giving him space now would make him happy. But instead, his smile disappeared. Are you upset? Last night, I got home 10 minutes late. It won't happen again, he said, suddenly worried. I finished my milk in one gulp and set the glass down. I'm going out with friends today. You should focus on your own things, I told him. He looked like he wanted to say something, but his assistant started calling him nonstop. Before leaving, he kissed me and whispered, I'll make it up to you tonight 10 times over. Once he left, I sat alone thinking about how badly I'd smothered him over the years. On our first anniversary, he had to travel for work and left without telling me because he was scared I'd make a scene. He only texted me once he was already at the hotel. I completely lost it. I texted him every 2 minutes, cried on video calls, screamed at him for leaving me behind. When he came back a week later, I refused to let him into the bedroom. He knocked softly and said, Baby, I shouldn't have hidden it from you, but it was urgent. Please let me in. Okay, I answered this time without fighting. I crawled under the blankets, trying to ignore everything. A few minutes later, the door suddenly burst open. Ethan pulled me out of bed and sat me on his lap. He held me tightly and bit my lips hard. It's been a while since we kissed, so let's make up for it 10 times over, he whispered. Kiss me. I didn't stop myself. I left bite marks all over his body, but then his breathing turned uneven and his expression changed. He suddenly pushed me away and locked himself in the bathroom. At the time, I didn't understand what happened. Now I realize he must have been disgusted by me. I sat on the couch scrolling through that post again. The comments felt like torture. My girlfriend's the same way. Always wants attention. Men work hard all day and women still get mad if we don't baby them. My ex called me so much I almost got fired. My stomach twisted painfully. I was that girlfriend. I was about to become the ex. Suddenly, Ethan called me. I have a business dinner tonight. My partner's assistant is a woman, so I'm just letting you know in advance, he said. I remembered the advice from the internet and forced myself to answer calmly. You don't have to explain yourself anymore. There was a long silence on the other end. All right. I'll get back to work then, he finally said in a tone I couldn't understand. I thought he'd feel relieved. I still had time before my appointment, so I started opening packages by the front door. The sound of the security code unlocking startled me. Ethan walked in and stopped when he saw me surrounded by boxes. Why are you back already? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed me by the waist and kissed me so desperately it stole the air from my lungs. When he finally let go, I could barely breathe. What are you doing? I whispered. He brushed the hair away from my face. You looked at me like you pitied me earlier. Didn't you want a kiss? He asked. My eyes burned, but I stayed quiet. The forums said men got tired of arguments too. Ethan held me in his arms for a long moment. So, do you want one now? He asked softly. I shook my head. No, it's okay. He stayed there for a second, almost like he was waiting for something. I should go, he finally said. Go ahead, Ethan. I'll be home by 8, he told me, glancing back several times before leaving. My chest hurt. Normally, I would have drowned him in kisses before he even reached the door, but not today. Now he wouldn't feel suffocated anymore. I went to the nail salon afterward. The owner, Chloe, was always overly talkative, and today she looked at me strangely. Your boyfriend didn't come with you today? She asked. I told her he had a dinner meeting. Immediately, I remembered the time I cried over a broken nail, and Ethan paid thousands of dollars at the salon just to calm me down. I used to force him to sit beside me for hours while I got complicated nail designs done. Aren't you going to text him? Chloe asked after only 10 minutes. I froze. She laughed and reminded me that last time, when Ethan left for 2 minutes to buy tea, I'd already spammed him with messages. Even she thought I was unbearable. My mood dropped instantly, so she quickly changed the subject and offered me tea that her brother was bringing over. I accepted because my throat felt dry. About half an hour later, a guy walked into the salon. I went completely still when I saw him. It was Jason Miller. He recognized me immediately and smiled. Emma, is that really you? He was the guy from the classroom next door in high school, the one who used to sneak little notes into my locker. He stood there holding 2 cups of tea while staring at me. Jason remembered the notes Ethan used to intercept and throw away before I could even read them. It really is you, Jason said, his eyes lighting up. He handed one tea to Chloe, then gave the other to me. He told me he hadn't heard anything about me since graduation, and asked how I'd been doing. I'm good, I answered while accepting the drink. I had no idea you two were siblings. Jason sat across from me while Chloe worked on my nails. So, how's life? Still Ethan's shadow? He teased. I froze. Even he remembered me as the girl who couldn't survive without her boyfriend. It hurt. I remembered the forum comments again. Clingy women are exhausting. People grow up. We both have our own lives now, I said with a forced laugh. Jason looked genuinely surprised. I'm glad to hear that. Actually, would you maybe want to grab dinner sometime and catch up? He asked. Before I could answer, the salon door slammed open. The atmosphere turned tense instantly. I didn't even need to turn around to know who it was. Ethan stood there in his perfectly tailored suit, his tie loosened slightly, his eyes locked directly onto Jason with a possessive stare that made chills run down my spine. Ethan, it's only 6:30. Your dinner was supposed to last until 8, I said in surprise. He ignored me completely. He walked over and stopped right behind my chair, placing one firm hand on the back of my neck. His thumb slowly brushed against my skin, sending a shiver through me. The dinner ended early, he said in a low voice. I told you I'd be home by 8. I didn't want you waiting for me. Any other day, I would have wrapped my arms around his neck and complained about how much I missed him. I would have demanded a kiss right there in front of everyone. But men get tired of taking care of clingy girlfriends after work, so I stopped myself from hugging him. You didn't have to rush back, I said. I was talking to Jason. Do you remember him? Ethan's thumb stopped moving. The silence turned heavy. Jason? Ethan repeated coldly. The track team guy. The one who used to leave terrible poems in lockers. Jason immediately turned red and stood awkwardly. I was asking Emma out to dinner so we could catch up, he explained. She's busy, Ethan interrupted sharply while gripping my shoulder. Panic rose in my chest. I couldn't let Ethan control me like I was some helpless child. I had to prove I wasn't dependent on him anymore. Actually, a group dinner could be fun someday. Maybe another time, Jason, I said quickly, trying to sound casual. Ethan's grip tightened painfully for a second before he finally let go. He stepped back. In the salon mirror, I noticed his expression had gone completely blank. The anger in his eyes disappeared, replaced by an emptiness that scared me even more. Are you done yet? Ethan asked Chloe, completely ignoring what I'd just said. Chloe hurried to finish my nails, visibly nervous because of the tension. I paid, grabbed my things, and followed Ethan out to the car. We walked through the parking garage in silence. Normally, I would have held his hand the entire time and talked nonstop about random things, but today I kept my distance. I'm giving him space, I thought. He must feel relieved. Once we got into the Bentley, Ethan didn't start the engine right away. The streetlights cast shadows along his sharp jawline. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. You don't ask about my schedule anymore, he said quietly. You don't hug me when I leave. And now you're making plans with guys who used to chase after you in high school. They weren't chasing me, Ethan. We were just talking, I answered without looking at him. All I wanted was for him to pull me into his arms, but I forced myself to stay strong. If I kept clinging to him, he would eventually leave me. "Who told you you were annoying?" he suddenly asked. "No one," I lied. "I realized it myself. You work hard, and you don't need a girlfriend acting like a child begging for attention all the time. I'm trying to give you space." A bitter laugh escaped him, one I'd never heard before. He leaned back in his seat and ran a frustrated hand through his hair. "Space," he repeated, making the word sound ugly. "You're giving me space?" He stared out the windshield for a moment before speaking again. "Fine, if that's what you want." He started the car and accelerated hard enough to make me jump. The drive home felt unbearable. As soon as we arrived, I went straight to the guest bathroom to shower. I avoided our usual routine of talking while he shaved. When I came back out, Ethan was sitting on the edge of the bed staring at the floor. His hair was still wet, making him look strangely vulnerable. I wanted to throw myself into his arms and kiss him. Instead, I climbed into bed and turned my back toward him. "Good night, Ethan." He switched off the light. Normally, I'd curl against his chest and he'd hold me so tightly I could barely breathe. Tonight, there was only cold emptiness between us. I cried silently into my pillow. The internet was right. This was what he preferred. What I couldn't see in the darkness was Ethan lying awake beside me, staring at the ceiling with clenched fists and uneven breathing. The following week was torture. I stopped visiting his office and signed up for pottery classes just so I wouldn't wait for him at the door like some loyal dog. But the apartment felt frozen. Ethan became like a ghost. He worked longer hours and only spoke to me in short, cold sentences. "Did you eat?" "Drive safely." He felt like a stranger. I got sick from the stress. I barely ate, and dark circles appeared under my eyes. Thursday night, I was sitting on the floor folding laundry when Ethan came home. He looked exhausted, carrying his suit jacket over one shoulder. "You're home already?" I asked softly without looking up. He stood there watching me. For a brief second, I saw desperation in his eyes before his usual calm expression returned. "I have a flight to Seattle tomorrow morning," he said. "There were problems with an acquisition deal. I have to stay there for 5 days and clean up the mess. 5 days. Normally, I would have caused a scene. I would have clung to his legs crying or begged him to take me with him. Instead, I swallowed the knot in my throat and nodded. "Okay. Tell me what clothes you want me to pack." Ethan dropped his briefcase onto the hardwood floor with a loud thud. Then he slowly walked toward me. The air suddenly felt heavy. "That's it?" he asked in a dangerously low voice. "You're not going to cry? You're not going to demand that I take you with me or throw my suitcase out the window?" I kept folding one of his shirts without looking at him. "I told you, Ethan. I'm growing up. I don't want to be a burden anymore. Look at me." I shook my head. I knew if I looked at him, I'd break down instantly. I stood up quickly to go pack his luggage, but he grabbed my wrist before I could leave. It didn't hurt, but he wouldn't let go. He pulled me against his chest and buried his face in my neck, inhaling shakily. "Emma," he whispered. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I wanted to wrap my arms around him and never let go again, but my fear convinced me he only pitied me now, so I gently pushed him away. "You need sleep. Your flight leaves early." Then I walked out and left him alone in the living room. The next morning, he left before I woke up. He didn't even kiss me goodbye. All he left behind was a note on the nightstand. "Flight leaves at 8. Lock the doors properly." I stared at the paper and cried. It felt like he was already removing me from his life, little by little, and when he came back, he'd probably ask to break up. Friday and Saturday were miserable. I didn't text Ethan or call him during his meetings. I forced myself to stay quiet. By Sunday, I felt like I was going insane sitting alone in the apartment, so I went back to Chloe's nail salon. Chloe tried to cheer me up, and Jason ordered pizza for the 3 of us. "So, are things bad between you and Ethan?" Jason asked carefully. "Something like that," I admitted. Ethan hadn't texted me a single word since landing in Seattle. The silence felt like proof that everything between us was ending. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was Noah, Ethan's assistant. "Emma, is Mr. Sterling with you?" Noah asked frantically. I could hear loud airport noise behind him. "No, Noah, he's in Seattle with you." "No, he's not," Noah said quickly. "We had the final negotiation an hour ago, but in the middle of the meeting, he checked his phone, went pale, and ran out. He left me in charge and rushed to the airport. He boarded a private flight back to New York 3 hours ago. He isn't answering any calls." I froze. Why would Ethan abandon a multi-million-dollar deal? Noah begged me to contact him if I saw him because the board of directors was furious and the deal was about to collapse. I hung up and immediately ran home. When I reached our apartment floor, the front door was slightly open. My chest tightened. I stepped inside. The apartment was completely dark, and his suitcases were abandoned in the hallway. "Ethan?" I called shakily. I found him in the bedroom. He was sitting on the edge of the bed in complete darkness, elbows on his knees, head buried in his hands. His jacket and tie were thrown onto the floor beside him. He looked destroyed. I rushed toward him without thinking, forgetting every stupid rule I'd made about giving him space, and dropped to my knees in front of him. "Ethan, what happened?" "Noah called me. He said you left the meeting. Did something happen? Is your family okay?" He slowly lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot and wild enough to scare me. "Where were you?" he asked in a hoarse whisper. "I was at Chloe's salon. Ethan, what's going on?" Without answering, he pulled his phone from his pocket and tossed it onto the bed. An Instagram post was open on the screen. Chloe had tagged me in a picture of the pizza table. My arm was visible beside Jason's. The caption read, "Pizza night with my favorites at Emma and Jason's place." Ethan's breathing sounded uneven. He leaned forward and grabbed my shoulders hard enough to hurt. "I was sitting in a board meeting listening to a bunch of old men talk about stock prices when my phone vibrated," he said shakily. I saw that picture and suddenly I couldn't breathe. "Ethan, it was just lunch." "I don't care about the food," he snapped, but almost instantly, the anger vanished from his face, replaced by pure desperation. He slid off the bed and dropped to his knees in front of me. "I don't care about lunch," he repeated in a broken voice. He wrapped both arms tightly around my waist and buried his face against my neck like a drowning man. "I care that you didn't text me once. I care that 3 days passed and you never called me screaming because I left. I care that you didn't demand presents from me. I care that you're learning how to live without me. And it's killing me." I froze. My hands hovered awkwardly in the air because I had no idea what to do. "Killing you?" I whispered. "But I thought this was what you wanted. I thought I annoyed you." Ethan pulled back just enough to wipe the tears off my cheeks roughly with his thumb. "Where the hell did you get that idea?" "You never had to say it," I cried. "You're always so cold. You let me kiss you, but then you always pull away." I finally let out every fear I'd been holding inside. "Last year, after you came home from your trip, I bit you and you pushed me away to run into the bathroom. You couldn't even stand me touching you." Ethan stared at me like I'd completely lost my mind. For a moment, he stayed silent. Then he let out a disbelieving, bitter laugh. "Emma," he whispered, his voice trembling as he pressed his forehead against mine. "You're an idiot." I blinked at him in confusion. "I didn't run into the bathroom because you disgusted me," he said quietly. "I ran because if I stayed in that bed with you 1 second longer, I would have completely lost control." My breath caught. "I would have ripped your clothes off right there," he admitted. "And I promised myself I'd wait until you were ready. I didn't want to scare you with how badly I wanted you." I stopped breathing for a second. "Do you know why I let you sit on my lap while I worked?" he asked while staring directly into my eyes. "Why I sat through hours at nail salons? Why I let you chase every girl away from me in high school?" His grip around my waist tightened. "Because I wanted that." His voice dropped lower. "Ever since kindergarten, when you cried just to sit beside me," he brushed his lips against mine slowly. "I've been obsessed with you." I was trembling. The distant, controlled Ethan I thought I knew was gone. The man in front of me was all fire. "But your expression?" I whispered weakly. "You always look annoyed." "It's self-control, Emma," he said before kissing my jaw desperately. "Do you have any idea how hard it is to constantly have the only person you love rubbing against you, begging for kisses, wearing my shirts, while I'm trying to pretend I'm a gentleman?" His hand slid up my back possessively. I pulled away because my jealousy and possessiveness are insane. When Jason used to pass you notes in high school, I wanted to break his hands. And last week, when he looked at you in that salon, I almost threw him through the glass. He stopped and looked directly into my eyes, completely vulnerable for the first time in his life. "I let you be clingy because it was the only way I could control my own obsession. As long as you were all over me, I knew you weren't paying attention to anyone else." His voice cracked slightly. "But then last week, you stopped touching me. You pulled away from me." I started crying harder. "I thought you stopped loving me," I admitted shakily. "I thought you got tired of me being controlling." "No," he answered immediately. I threw my arms around his neck. It was what I'd wanted to do for an entire week. I buried my fingers in his hair and pulled him closer. "I saw a post online," I confessed. "It said clingy girlfriends push men away and that's why they get dumped. I was just trying to be a good girlfriend so you wouldn't leave me." Ethan suddenly went completely still. "A post online?" he repeated dangerously. I nodded nervously. "On Reddit and TikTok. Everyone said the same thing. I didn't want you to hate me. He slowly pulled away from me. The confusion in his eyes disappeared, replaced by dark anger. Not toward me, but toward the people who wrote those things. Give me your phone. I handed it over immediately. He already knew my password. He opened my history, found the forum, deleted the app, and then tossed my phone onto the floor. He looked different now, like the last thread of his patience had snapped. No more internet advice, he said in a voice that made my entire body tense. Then he grabbed my chin firmly. Listen carefully. From now on, you stay by my side. If you want to sit on my lap while I work, you do it. If you want to call me during meetings, I'll put you on speaker in front of the entire room. His eyes darkened intensely. But if you ever try to give me space again, I swear I'll chain you to this bed. A wave of heat rushed through me. All the fear inside me disappeared instantly. You mean that? I whispered. You're not tired of me? Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he lifted me effortlessly and threw me onto the mattress. He climbed over me and pinned both my wrists above my head with one hand. I'm about to show you exactly how tired I am, he growled. Then he kissed me hard. This wasn't like his old kisses. This felt like complete surrender. He bit my lips and started pulling my clothes off impatiently. His mouth moved down my neck until he bit the exact spot that always made me gasp. You're mine, he whispered against my skin. You're not becoming independent. And you're definitely not looking at Jason. His grip tightened around my waist possessively. You're mine, Emma. And you're staying right here underneath me until you can't breathe. Yes, Ethan, please, I whispered breathlessly. He looked at me with dark, hungry eyes. I'm not stopping tonight, Emma. I'm not running to the bathroom this time. If we do this, I'm never letting you go. His forehead rested against mine. I'm going to ruin you for every other man. I looked up at the boy I'd loved since childhood, the boy who had secretly built his entire world around me. Then ruin me, I whispered. That was the moment Ethan completely lost control. The rest of the afternoon became a blur of tangled sheets, bruising kisses, and skin against skin. The cold, composed businessman everyone feared at the office turned into something wild behind closed doors. He made me scream his name until my throat hurt, and he kept every promise he made 2 years later. Ethan, look at this one, I said while tapping excitedly on the jewelry store glass. The sales associate looked terrified of us. Ethan wrapped one arm around my waist from behind and rested his chin on top of my head while looking at the ring I was pointing at. It's too small, he said casually. Only 3 carats. That's exactly why I like it, I teased while leaning against his chest. Ethan glanced at the employee. Bring out the private collection, the stones we looked at yesterday. The poor man immediately hurried into the back room. I turned around inside Ethan's arms and looped my hands around his neck. You spoil me too much, Mr. Sterling, I murmured. You only want the best, only the best for you, he answered before kissing me softly. If I'm officially tying you to me so you can't escape, the ring should at least be heavy enough to slow you down. I rolled my eyes, but happiness warmed my chest. Ever since Seattle, everything between us had changed. Ethan stopped hiding how possessive he was. Now our relationship worked differently. I was still clingy. I still demanded kisses and spammed him with messages all day long. The difference was that now he matched my energy perfectly. If I didn't text him for 3 hours, he called immediately asking where I was. Whenever he traveled for work, he forced me to come with him and kept me in the hotel nearby just so he could see me the second his meetings ended. He even confessed that he'd been tracking my location since college. Honestly, I loved it. To people online, our relationship would probably look toxic. They'd call me codependent and accuse Ethan of being obsessive. But while his hand slowly slid down my back, pulling me tighter against him in the middle of the jewelry store, I realized I didn't care what anyone else thought. You have a board meeting in 20 minutes, I reminded him while smoothing my fingers over his suit jacket. We should go. Cancel it, Ethan said while staring at my lips. It's a board meeting. I laughed. They can wait. I haven't kissed you in an hour and it's starting to make me anxious. Then he kissed me hard right there in front of the employee returning with velvet ring boxes. I melted into him happily. Happy to be the clingy girlfriend of the most obsessive man in the world. Some people need air to survive. Ethan and I only felt alive when we were suffocating each other with love, and I wouldn't change a single thing.